All right, let's move to Georgia. And these others I'll hit a little bit quicker, but Georgia. This Georgia team is not Georgia as we know them. It's not. The verdict is in, at least in that regard. That doesn't mean they're not good, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to win the SEC and be in the playoff. But this is clearly not the same Georgia of what we're used to over the last 2 and 3 and 4 years, but certainly the last 2 when they've been back-to-back national championships. They beat Auburn on the road and good. And I, by the way, I buy into conference games on the road are hard. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and say like Kirby can't say that after the game. I think it's hard. I think that it's evident when Utah plays the way they do at Oregon State. It's evident when, USC plays the way they do at Colorado. It's evident when Arizona is in a 1-score game with Washington late. Like, we see how difficult it is to win on the road. That's what makes what Ohio State did against Notre Dame so impressive. It's what makes what Texas did against Alabama so impressive. It's what makes, by the way, and I'll give you credit, even though you hate me, which whatever, Florida State winning against Clemson, even if it was not pretty, kudos. That's a feather in your cap because it's tough to win on the road. So when Georgia goes out there and they win on the road against Auburn, like, okay, good. You got your win. You were also bad at home against South Carolina. And so now we have data. Now we have evidence. What is Georgia this year? And they are a shell of what they were in the past. I get it. They're wearing the same uniforms. I get it. They've got the same coach. And I get it, they've got the same star in Brock Bowers. But the heart and soul of what Georgia was over the last 2 years was a dominant team in the run game at the line of scrimmage and on defense. And that's not the case anymore, at least not right now. The data suggests that there's something very different. Here's the numbers. Georgia's defense, when you're talking about yards per carry allowed, they've been one of, if not the best, rush defenses in college football over the last 4 years. In fact, if you go back to 2019, they were second. 2020, they were the top rush defense per carry allowed. 2021, second. 2022, third. 2023, 67th. It's like, whoa, which one of these is not like the other? 67th. Again, Georgia in name only. This is not the same team at the line of scrimmage. Georgia has been, as you can see, in the top 3 in the country in yards per carry allowed each of the last 4 years, and they're 67th this year. They gave up 200 yards on the ground last week and over 5 yards per carry for the first time in 5 years, since 2018. Like, it wasn't just that, they faced Army or a triple option team and they ran for 200 yards and, they ran it 80 times. No. 200 yards, 5 yards per carry for Auburn. And I get it. Like, Auburn can run it, in particular with that dual quarterback system. And I get it. Here's the other alarming part. If you go to the other side of the ball, Georgia ran for under 4 yards per carry against Auburn. 3.6 yards per carry running the football. It's the second time this season that they've been held that low in the run game. It only happened one time in the last 2 seasons. All right, so think about this. One time in the last 2 years, they've been held to that point, 3.6 yards per carry. Now it's happened twice this year alone. And by the way, it's not sack numbers. You could make the argument like, well, hey, remember in college football, rushing yards per carry is skewed because of sack numbers. Beck wasn't sacked against Auburn. He wasn't. So that doesn't even bring into the equation a negative number in a rushing attempt, which college football has to change, by the way. Can we please stop counting sacks in rushing numbers? But I digress. 3.6. Over the last 2 years, they've been running the football for about 5.5 yards per carry. This year, it's down a full yard. Georgia's not the same, folks. Georgia is not the same. That's why I moved them out of my poll, out of the first spot in my poll. This is a team that is a point differential of 0 in the first quarter. And my top 10 looks different now. And granted, I only moved them to 3, but I look at Michigan and Texas and I'm like, okay, you're better than Georgia. They are. They're better at the line of scrimmage. Those two teams would beat Georgia next week, maybe in Athens. And I know Georgia fans will be incensed at that, but it's the truth because Georgia's not the same. They're not the same. Not this year.